Hey, how you doing? I'm Van, the only channel on YouTube that you're not allowed to be subscribed to. Go ahead, try it. I dare you. I'm sorry, that was excessive. But welcome back! Welcome to part 2 of the Bloodborne video, where I talk about the various enemies in Bloodborne. I realized after a conversation that I was having in my comments section, remember to do that by the way, that I did not talk about a single enemy from either the DLC or the Chalice Dungeons. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why I didn't consider either of those while I was going through and making the list of the enemies, but it worked out really conveniently because now I can do a part 2, so I'm not gonna complain. My other video also did really well, surprisingly. I appreciate everybody so much for anybody that subscribed for watching that video. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. I'm very, very close. Please subscribe. I know I'm harping on that, but it's right there. It's right. Anyway, we're gonna start in the Chalice Dungeons. The Chalice Dungeons are probably the worst part of Bloodborne. And I say that coming from a place of love. The Chalice Dungeons are not fun. They're not engaging. They're not interesting in any real, meaningful, or impactful way. They're procedurally generated, and the assets that they use to generate them all kinda look like crap. Some of them have a cooler coating of crap, and there may be some that are a little less crap, but the Chalice Dungeons, as they're meant to be used, are not good. Finding hidden things from the game's code that wouldn't normally be accessible, you can do that through Chalice Dungeons. That's really cool. You can also power level with like the Comf dungeon, which is a neat thing to do. I do that not every time I play. But there's a pretty sizable number of enemies in the Chalice Dungeons, most of which appear in the base game, but a lot of them that don't. There are some that are very standard with a lot of just forms of the same enemy, namely the Labyrinth Watchers and the other ones. The other ones whose names that I'm forgetting right now. But I bring up the Labyrinth Watchers specifically because they are number 3 on this list. Yes, we're doing top 3 for both of these. I have not mentioned that yet for some reason. I apologize. I'm sorry, today was, like, exhausting at work. Ugh. I wanted to get this out though, like we're just doing it. But the Labyrinth Watchers are probably the most uninspired enemy in all of Bloodborne. They're just a guy that's kind of emaciated. There's a fucking fly. There's just a guy who's kind of emaciated. He's a little creepy, he's a little ugly, a little spindly, and that's it. He may have a weapon, he may use that weapon, even he may throw a thing if he's feeling real frisky, but he's just the standard Labyrinth enemy, and he's boring. He has nothing that makes him unique. And I say he, as far as I know, there's no gender to these things. They've just been rotting in the Chalice Dungeons for however long that they've been in the Chalice Dungeons. Presumably hundreds of years or so, since the first hunts. We're gonna have to go with the evil Labyrinth Spirits as the second worst enemy, because they suck ass. You know, traditionally, whenever I'm going through the Chalice Dungeons, I don't go through them fair. I go through them at the end of the game once I've already kind of gotten everything other than Gearman taken care of, and then I wildly stomp everything into the ground in like 1 or 2 hits at most. The couple of times that I've tried to actually do the Chalice Dungeons correctly, these fucks ruined my day, because they can turn invisible. They can do like the stabby thing that the Black Knife Assassins can do whenever you get to Elden Ring. They can teleport behind you. And on top of that, they're hard to kill, and they're hard to even catch, because sometimes they just turn invisible and leave. There are non-hostile variants wandering around, but I'm not going to consider those evil Labyrinth Spirits. Those are more just passive Labyrinth Spirits. Hang out in the area, chill and smoke for a little while, maybe some Netflix later kind of Labyrinth Spirit, you know what I'm saying? So those that watched my last video may know that I hold a special hatred in my heart for all the Souls-born dogs in the world. They're unfair, they're stupid, and they're mean. And that goes doubly so for the Keeper's Hunting Dog, which is the fire-breathing dog with horns. He's bigger, he's longer, and he's uncut, and he's pretty much unstoppable, at least as far as dogs go. I mean, he's not like a boss, but he's really obnoxious, because they have a high amount of damage, they have a high speed because they're dogs, and they typically come in at least pairs, or paired with a Keeper of the Old Lords as a non-boss. And that's a whole nother can of worms. If you see the hunting dogs out there, now you have to be on your toes. You have to be looking out for a much more potable, potable, right? Much more potable threat. We're gonna go with potable. The flies like Bloodborne. There hasn't been a fly in here all goddamn day. We're gonna move on to the Old Hunters DLC, because the Old Hunters DLC is phenomenal. Everything that the Chalice Dungeons wasn't, the Old Hunters DLC is. Short of, I think, maybe the Shivering Isles DLC in Oblivion, the Old Hunters DLC stands out as probably my favorite of all time. I've said DLC so many times that it no longer sounds like it means anything, so we're just gonna start talking about the enemies. Number 3 worst enemy is the Lightning Fishman. Alright, there really aren't that many enemies added in the DLC, weirdly enough. You get a lot of reused enemies early on in the DLC, and a lot of re-equipped enemies in some cases, but you don't get completely unique enemies in most cases. The few times you do, they're kind of all that's there. When you're in the clinic area, all of the patients wandering around are just the same enemy, you know? Like, and the same can be said for whenever you get to the actual fisherman's village. All kind of the same enemy. I'm not complaining, it's not really a bad thing. They do a lot with the world, the environment, and the placement of these enemies to make them unique. But the Lightning Fishman really sucks ass. You're gonna think you've gotten away, right? You're gonna think you've escaped. You're gonna think that you've made it to safety. Zap. That's right, zap. That's the only move that this guy really has that matters. But he raises his little staff to the air, and a lightning bolt strikes onto the ground and does damage. Which, you know, not so bad. Not really an awful attack. Pretty well telegraphed, too. 90% of the time in the Fisherman's Village, you're going to be standing in water. And the water carries the electricity, or at least it looks like it does and it feels like it does, because this thing has a really wide hitbox, surprisingly, and it hurts. And he can see you from a mile away. You may be surprised to find the Shark Giants at number 2, but hear me out. So the Shark Giant is really only bad in one of its 3 encounters. Granted, there are only 4 Shark Giants in the entire game, so I guess you can imagine which encounter I'm talking about. Yeah, we're talking about the Rikuyo fight. By themselves, the Shark Giants serve as more of an obstacle, typically surrounded by a bunch of other adds. They make life harder by being obnoxious and in the way, but they're manageable because you have a lot of area to deal with them. When you're going down the well in the center of the Fisherman's Village, and you get to the point where you're about halfway done with the first Shark Giant, which has already been an awful experience, he'll run around the pillar, and another one will fall from the ceiling. Now you have to deal with 2 of them in this cramped-ass, stupid-ass cave. Genuinely one of the toughest encounters in all of Bloodborne. You will die a lot at this point. You have to be determined, or you at least have to want to kill the sharks. But they will gobble you up and swallow you, and you will have done nothing to them. They feel no pain, they feel no fear. And you can cheese them, but, like, don't be a bitch, you know? I literally cheese them, like, 90% of the time. Like, don't listen to me. The Grande IV patients are the most obnoxious goddamn enemy in the entire DLC. And I don't just mean because they're loud and they scream a lot. I also mean because their damage is absurd, their stagger window is asinine at best, and their combos go on for a year. I always think they're done swinging their little stick and beating the ground really, really hard with it, but then they keep doing it more. I just want to hit something. I just want to run in there and whack something with my saw cleaver, but no, Mr. IV patient got to keep swinging that thing, and then I die. Now granted, maybe this is more of a me problem. Maybe this is something that I need to work on as a person. The only saving grace to this enemy, and the only reason he's not more obnoxious, is because at one point when you're near the top of the clinic, there's one that you can piss off and make just run off the edge really easily, and he looks like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Like, he looks silly. Like, he looks like he's looking down going, whoops, and then he falls. That's their saving grace. That's their soul saving grace, or else I would not fight them. I would not fight a single one of them. So yeah, that's the entire video. I know, this one was short. I just wanted to get it out there because, you know, it feels incomplete not having it, and I don't really like staying on the same topic for very long. That said, the next video that I put out will have nothing to do with Bloodborne, and it will have nothing to do with video games in general. So, hope I'm funny. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it tremendously. I attempted to put more energy into this video than I normally put into the videos just to see how it does. The video probably peaked a lot on the audio. I don't know how to manage this completely yet, and I'm trying a new thing. I got books. I've got books, and I've got the mic stood up. So, huzzah, huzzah! But yeah, y'all have a great rest of your night. Also, subscribe.